Okay. Well, thank you, first of all, to Coach Jackson and to the Thunder staff. I've been very fortunate to have worked with them before and have worked in their, oh, now, of course, this is going to happen. I've been fortunate enough to have worked with them before and to have worked with them in coaching spring. And that's been an awesome thing for me. And, you know, I want to also throw shout out to Coach McConkey from the Rams. He's reached out to me recently, and we've had a couple good talks. So it's really nice to be recognized. You know, rural football, especially since I started this program in 2011, rural football is really, I think, taken off, and there's some excellent coaching out there, which is producing some excellent football players. And you know, all of that, I think, comes from the fact that clinics like this are available to us and we're able to share with other coaches. Doesn't matter what we're coaching in terms of 6, 9, or 12. Saskatchewan definitely steps up all the time, and we show that on the national stage quite often. So without further ado, I'll just introduce myself. I have an excellent family, my wife Mallory and 2 children, Abby and Owen. This is my 26th year teaching, 14th at Indian Head. Prior to this, I was in Fort Capel for 11 years where I coached the program there. I've coached in RMF Spring. I was a Thunder guest coach, as I said. And some of the best opportunities that I have had are coaching Senior Bowl and Saskatchewan Challenge Cup for 7 years each. And those have really helped me to grow, and I'll talk about that in a bit. We started the Indian Head program here in 2011. There was a program here. Actually, Indian Head had a fairly rich history of football from 1948 to 1998, but then the program died because of coaching, money, etc. There just weren't people to do it. So when I moved over here in 2007 as a vice principal, some people asked me to get a program going, and I had just had, I was just having my daughter, my first child at that time. So I didn't get anything going until 2011. I'm glad I did. So in the 9 years that we've played, obviously not counting this past fall, we've been to 4 provincial finals, and we won 2 provincial championships, including the 2019 championship, which was an awesome thing for our town and our program. So I think, you know, I'm not going to, I'm just going to talk about how I do things and what our philosophy is here, because I think it's really important that, you know, some of the things I'm going to say are going to be maybe more applicable here, but you could take principles and apply them to you all wherever you are. And it doesn't matter what level you're at, especially with some of these things. We know that football is a great sport and that we want everyone to be involved in football, and they're for positive reasons. And I'm going to share some of those reasons here. So why football? If you run your program properly, it absolutely is a positive for your school and your community, or it doesn't, if it's not a school team, for whatever you are representing, whether it's RMF or whatever. Football, if it's run properly, is the greatest team sport. Now I'm just going to use Indian Head numbers here. When I was the vice principal and came here in 2007, it was kind of a gong show. There was no football, there was no boys basketball, and our ODRs, or office discipline referrals, in 2010, and I got these numbers because I did a presentation for the on extracurricular, the value of extracurricular for Prairie Valley School Division at their AGM, and we had over 1,200 ODRs, so office discipline referrals, in 2010. We started the program in 2011. In 2017, when I did that presentation, we had 186 ODRs that year. So we had dropped our office discipline referrals by 1,000 in 7 years. Now, some of that is we improved the culture here. but a big part of that were boys who were bored and had nothing to do in the school and were vandalizing and fighting and all of those other things. They weren't doing that anymore. They felt a part of the school. They felt a pride. So they weren't misbehaving because there were expectations put on them. In 2017, in Indian Head High School, our average of students, grade 10 to 12, who were involved in at least one school activity, not just football, but any one school activity, their mean percentage or their average was 80.1% academically. And those who were not involved in any school activities, 63.2. So those are tangible numbers that we can show, that I can show our school division, I can show our administration, and I can show our community. And I have shown those numbers. And that is going to, I think, reinforce what we do on the football field. There are obviously other parts, like our basketball program's been very good. We've started a drama program, which has been very good, but kids feeling that they're part of school is excellent. And that's going to make your school run better. And so it uplifts your school. It uplifts your community. Our community is outstanding. And football is the greatest team sport on earth because it is that sport that it doesn't matter what your body type is. It doesn't matter what your gender is. It doesn't matter. You can play football. A lot of other sports are skill specific. So basketball, for example, skill specific. Not every, there's a certain body type that are going to be probably a little bit more successful in basketball than others. In football, it doesn't matter what your body type is or who you are. You can play football and you can be successful at it. So our team philosophy or team philosophy, in my opinion, and I really thought hard about this because we do have a philosophy. Do we have it written on paper? No, but it's generally a philosophy that I know is shared amongst a lot of coaches. But I think, when we look at coaching is, for me, it's the reason I stepped down from being a vice principal. I am now, I've been a teacher the last 3 years. The reason I stepped down is because I possibly could have been moved into a principalship somewhere and I wouldn't have been able to coach. And I didn't want that. That's not a happy life for me. I chose to go back to teaching because I wanted to stay here and I wanted to coach football. And, to make a life decision that way shows how much I love what I do. And I think when you have that passion, it's really going to come out with the kids. And so, some people coach because, especially in schools, because they need extracurricular hours and they do things like that. Some do it because they love the game. But this isn't, and I coach junior basketball, but some people coach sports because they just want the hours. Everyone here and most people who will coach football aren't doing it for the hours. They're doing it because they love the sport and they love it. The best part of my day, school day, definitely is when I step on that football field. And it's a great responsibility. You're shaping lives. And I've got, I've received 2 letters, one in 2013 after a student played in 11 and 12 and graduated, and he went on to the military, and he sent me a letter just saying how much I changed his life, like football changed his life. He was, and I remember in grade 8 and 9 and in 10, he was overweight. He was not athletic, he didn't care to be athletic. He played video games all the time. He was great at Call of Duty, but he didn't do much else. And he wasn't a very happy kid. I taught him, he wasn't a very happy kid. But in grade 11 and 12, when he played football, all of a sudden he felt like he belonged to something. And when he belonged to something, that made him want to do better. He played Saskota Bowl with us. He went on to the military. he says that would not have happened. He's not even sure. He basically said, you saved my life. So that's, you know, that's a motivator for me. You get something like that, and I have it up in my classroom here, and I look at it from time to time because it's a motivator. It tells you you're doing the right thing. So when we look at player development as a football player, yes, we are trying to develop football players, but I think we are developing them as human beings. And to me, that is probably the most important thing. I remember Ryan Hall, and Ryan, I think you're here. I think I remember Ryan did a presentation on safe contact, and he's reading from a book from, I think, the 1970s. And the first line, and I'll never forget this, the first line was, "The head is to be used as a weapon." Well, we know that that philosophy has completely changed now with safe contact, and we know the head is not to be used as a weapon, but that was the thinking back then. And I think the thinking back then in some football circles or all sports circles were, there was hazing, there was, the bigger kids pick on the little kids, and it was kind of a ritual, I would say, that people wanted to go through. But, times have changed. And right now, if your philosophy is not inclusive and it doesn't demand respect for all, then it definitely needs to change. And that's 2021. And I always say to my kids, and I always say this to my classes too, there's two types of people in this world. There's assholes and there's good people. Doesn't matter, all the other ethnicity, gender, identity, sexuality, all of that doesn't matter. You're either an asshole or you're a good person. All that other stuff doesn't matter. So we're trying to grow good people. And, if we've been successful, and I'm thankful for that, but if when years where we don't win, I can always look at the kids that I've sent out here, and I've made them better. We've made them as a program better human beings. So why are kids playing? And, it's challenging nowadays to get commitment. This might be something after COVID, which might be a little bit tougher to do because kids have gotten used to, unfortunately, I think a lot of kids have gotten used to being lazy. But, we ran a few practices. We were able to run a few practices in the fall. We still had over 30 kids show up. So that tells me kids want to do something. And we're talking about getting our spring program going, and kids want to do something. But football, or on our teams, it has to be a safe place where kids feel that they belong. And if they're not belonging, they don't feel that they're safe, they don't belong. Like, we don't know their life situations. Have they been, do they have family issues? And this is the safe place, the safe haven. You're, as a coach, you're the person that they can look up to, because maybe they don't have that at home. Maybe they're being bullied, and this is a way of them feeling that they belong. And if we don't accept them, if we do that same principle, where we're bullying them, or not allowing them to look up to us or whatever, or kind of talk down to them on the football field, then we're doing them a vast disservice, and you're basically doing what they're trying to escape. So we want to make sure that, some kids just want to play because they want to be part of something with their friends. They might not be athletically good, or they might not be, they might not do all the hard work, but they want to be there, right? So you put them through and you work them hard, don't get me wrong, but I'm saying that, they might never play in a close game. And if they're happy with that, they're okay. They just want to be part of something. And one thing that we always say to, start of every year, that doesn't matter if you're the biggest grade 12 or you're the smallest grade 9, you matter, you're important. And none of you are more important. I have 5 kids playing Thunder now. Those kids were not more important than the grade 9s who are coming up behind them. And I think if you have that philosophy and you hammer that philosophy and continue to hammer that philosophy, I think you're going to be successful, because I think you have to look at, what are we trying to accomplish? Yes, we want to win games. Yes, we love to win provincial championships. There's no doubt about it. We want to win football games. But if we are creating young men and women who are going to be successful when they leave here, you are doing your job. You're doing your job on the football field, and you're also going to make them better football players at the same time. So, when we look at accountability, we look at coaches and staff. How do we treat our players? Do we yell and degrade them, or do we teach them? Kids are going to make mistakes. A lot of these kids don't watch football. I grew up watching football. That's what I live for it. I love it. I watch hours of NFL every Sunday. I watch CFL. I watch college football when I get a chance, when my family, but Sunday's the one day that I kind of take to watch. A lot of these kids, they don't do that. I could, I'm a Bills fan. I could tell them, hey, how about the Bills game? And they have no idea who the Bills even are. So, they're going to make mistakes. I make mistakes coaching, and no one yells at me for it. So kids can't play the game in fear of making mistakes. They need to know that we have their backs. So correct the mistake and move on. If they continue to make the mistake, then we need to teach them in a different way. I remember being at a football SAS coaches clinic, and the Seattle O-line coach was talking, and he talked something in that kind of same vein that kind of stuck with me. And it's not always possible to do, but what he said was, instead of yelling at a guy, who's doing something incorrect, he kind of pulls him aside. He has a little conversation with him one-on-one, and then they go on. And he found that really, players really respected that. That's at the highest level of football. Players really respected the fact that they were treated as human beings rather than yelled at all the time. So when I look at this, and we have to have accountability. Coaches, like I said, we need to teach. We need to understand that kids are going to make mistakes. And if we preach respect, we need to show it. So if our whole thing is, you need to respect others, respect others, respect others, then if we're not respecting, then we need to be the role models for that. Our academic standards. So when we look at, the next one, winning on the field doesn't mean we're winning off. And I think you have to ask yourself, what's more important? I mean, I love to do both. Don't get it wrong. Don't get me wrong. I am as competitive as anybody. When I used to play my grandma in rummy, I used to want to blank her. And she was actually the same, I might add. But I'm competitive. I want to win, but there's a way to do it, and there's a way to be classy and all of that. So what are we showing the kids? There's a way to win. We'll talk about that. And what's more important, I think growing human beings and who are going to go on and have a lifetime of success is more important than, winning a football game. So players have to be accountable on and off the field. So our accountability, what we do, and it's different for everyone else. We have academic standards here at IHHS. So if a student, or if a student athlete, and they're student athletes first, if they're failing a class, a teacher will notify me, and that student can still practice but cannot play until they're passing the class. Well, a lot of times that works, right? The reason I want them to practice is because, a lot of people say, well, they shouldn't even be able to practice. And my argument back is, well, it's a safety issue. If that kid is passing that class by Thursday morning and we play Friday, and I've been told on Monday, and I held him or her out all week, now all of a sudden they're not prepared. They haven't been practicing for a week, and it's a safety issue. So we allow our kids to practice, and then, they get the work done. I haven't ever had to have a kid not playing a game that I recall. Behavior-wise as well, we always set a higher bar, and I tell them, your bar is higher than anyone who's not on this football field. And, when I was a vice principal, that was easy to maintain. It's a little tougher when you're a teacher because you don't get to see the office traffic, but I hear about it pretty quick. So they know that's what the expectation is, not only at school, but away from school. And that goes to in the community and protect the team. And, my line is, don't put me in that position. Don't put me in a position where you're going to miss a game because you're failing a class. Don't put me in a position where I have to take action some way or some form because your behavior, you've skipped a class or something like that. You need to protect the team. And when you protect the team, and we do this hashtag protect the team, we talk about it. Well, after every game on a Friday, I always say protect the team. When you're out on the weekend, you see a buddy in trouble, you get him out of the trouble. You don't join the trouble, you help him or her avoid the trouble. We talk about, in terms of protecting the team, that, when we're in the community, there's a certain way that we act. There's a certain thing that we do. We don't get into, I don't want phone calls about you on a Sunday morning. And I get them, or I used to get them. I don't get them anymore because generally we're pretty good with that. And that behavior and that higher standard has to go to the off season as well. And I got a couple kids actually that I need to talk to tomorrow about missing classes. So, even though we're not in football season, it still matters. They still have a higher expectation, according to me. You need to, one thing I want to say also and protect the team. We have a female training staff. And so at the beginning of each year, each season, we talk about the parameters of, how you're going to treat the trainers. And that's a really good segue for us because, again, we are role models here. So we talk about respecting women. I have a daughter who's 12 and in grade 7 here at school right now. I want these young men to, especially the guys, to understand that you have to respect women. You have to give there's a certain way of acting. And so we talk about that and we discuss that about respecting their mothers, respecting other girls within their class or in the school, respecting female teachers and things like that. And that's, sometimes that's tough right now. That's tough, but we do a pretty good job, I think, with that. You have to be consistent. So it can't be for, star quarterback, whatever, we need to win this game. No, it's if star quarterback is failing or acting up, he is just like everybody else on the team. And when you have that consistency, if you start playing favorites, obviously the kids are going to know that, right? So if you're consistent, then everybody knows that. And they know that doesn't matter if I'm, the stud middle linebacker or whatever, I'm going to have to keep my academics up and I'm going to have to keep my behavior under wraps. So that's certainly something that I think is really important. I don't know what you guys do, but we always laugh as coaches, our coaching staff, about Miracle Thursdays, because we play on Fridays, the kids who've been sitting out of practice Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and all of a sudden Miracle Thursday, everyone's ready for the walkthrough. And it's like, oh, where were all these kids before? So we're pretty consistent on, playing time is going to be limited if you've been out because you're hurt. We're going to limit that playing time. And I don't press kids. I don't call them, I know there's words that we're going to use. Again, it's that whole philosophy of respect for the kids. But at the same time, understand if you're away for 3 days, I can't play you on the Friday. So that's understood as well. And, I encourage well-rounded individuals. I think it's important. I don't want my kids to play sports 24 or play football 24/7. I want them to play basketball. I want them to play other sports, to be academically strong. I just want them to be good people, and we want them to learn to be resilient, and we want them to learn how to communicate respect to one another. And I think the last thing is, we're shaping young men and women, and how you do that is up to you. It's a powerful responsibility that we have. Players trust coaches, and we want them to go off, and as I said before, we want them to be productive members of society. whatever that might look like. So your coaching staff, it's really important when you choose. Sometimes you don't get to choose because you're in a smaller community and maybe, these are the only two guys who will help or the two girls who will help, whoever it is, right? But coaching staff matters. Coaches are in the spotlight. The head coach, for me as a head coach, I'm in the spotlight here in town. So, it's important that I model the philosophy, that I'm a role model, that I'm positive within the school, that I'm not degrading, anyone within the school. And I think that's really, really important. And, when I say life balance is important, if COVID's taught me anything, last year, I'm lucky. I have an excellent wife who really is supportive in terms of football. And Bill Ritz from Foam Lake once said, there's two types of football wives. There's good ones, there's ex ones, and he's right. Like I have been divorced because I have an ex-wife who wasn't all about coaching. Well, life balance is important. Spending time, with your family. And what I found last year or 19 when I coached, my daughter was playing volleyball as a grade 6 at the elementary school. She has a game on a Wednesday. Well, my coaching staff can start, and I went and watched her game. To me, that's important. Even though we're in a, getting down to the playoffs, I still took the time to go do that. So having life balance is important. Your staff must share in your positive philosophy. We have a staff of 7. I'm the only person from our school staff who is there. All the rest are community coaches, but they're fantastic. And I'm really lucky to have the staff that I have. And I think a lot of our success the last few years is because of the staff that we are and how we work together. They need to buy in. They maintain the values, share in the philosophy and maintain your program values. They need to buy in on the academics. They need to buy in on the behavior. They need to buy in on protecting the team. And we have. And, you can't waver from that. You can't have that one coach who's kind of out there kind of talking behind your back or doing this or that, because then it affects the entire program and the entire team. You can disagree on scheme, and we have. You disagree on scheme, you agree to disagree, whatever it may be, but all of that has to be away from the players. And, when we step on the field, we're kind of united. We're kind of like Trudeau's cabinet. Okay, so, how, for me, there's 2 things that coaches need to do. They have to know how to win. And if you're not winning, that's okay. Get better. Why aren't you winning? Look at the mirror. Don't look at the kids. Look at yourself. Because I think kids across the board, you're going to have down years, but I think kids across the board are fairly even. There's not, I may say, Lumsden always has kids who are like 6'3", 250 on their line, which is true, but generally each town is going to have, or program, or is going to have accessibility to kids who are about the same. Coaching matters. So if your coaches, I think it's important, and for me, improve yourself through coaching clinics, other coaching opportunities, and there's tons of opportunities. These clinics, the Thunder, have always been very helpful and very inviting to coaches. RMF, coaching for us at the Saskota Challenge Cup, 6-man to a Can-Am Bowl. And, I don't win. I won in 2013. I don't win in 13 if I don't coach Saskota in 12, because I got to see how those coaches did it. And, even though I was the head coach that year, we kind of rotated around. I learned so much. I learned more in that coaching experience than that kind of propelled the rest of it. And before that, I was kind of cocky, and I'll talk about that. That's my next one. Embrace getting better. You have to want to get better. You can't think that you're I'm at the top. No, you have to want to get better. You can always learn something. Give you an example. I was in Fort in 2004. And when I was in Fort in 2004, we played Delisle in the provincial semifinal. I didn't do much film study. I had film of them, but I didn't watch much because I thought, oh, we're good enough. Like, we're good. We're good. We lost. It was 6-6 with a couple minutes left. We lost 13-6. And after, I was like, I should have done more. But, I thought, oh, I don't need to get better. No, you do. You need to get better because coaching out there, there are other coaches and programs who are putting in the work. And if you're not putting in the work as well, I think you're doing your kids a disservice. So, putting in that work is really, really important. And that's where I have next. You got to be willing to put in the work off the field during the season and in the off season. So that's, obviously film study is so important. And it's how you look at film. I have a certain way of doing it. I take notes and then I watch again, then I take more notes, and then I kind of break down tendencies and things like that. So I won't watch a film once, I'll watch a film maybe a dozen times just to kind of get those tendencies. And then I'll look for weaknesses. I'll look for advantages that we can take. But also like having drills that are relevant to what you do. Some, I know I have in the past when I was a younger coach, it was like, well, we need to fill 2 hours. If you need to find stuff to fill the 2 hours, you shouldn't be having 2-hour practices. But now we do things that are relevant to what we're doing. And, these clinics provide a lot of that. And there's a lot of stuff that you can find. And, I'm kind of, I always say to my wife that, and she knows this, it doesn't matter what I'm coaching. I coach football, I've coached basketball, and I'm all in. Like my chips are all in. I am all in when I coach. And I think that's really important, and the kids appreciate that, and the community appreciates that. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Be reflective. So, if I'm running an offense that's never working, why am I still running that offense? I have to be reflective, and I'm going to talk a bit about knowing your personnel later, but be reflective. Look at yourself. Sometimes we like to work in our comfort zone, and you want to kind of get, if comfortable isn't working, you need to expand your comfort zone. And that's something I've done. Like I've expanded, and I'm looking. In 19, we kind of 17, 18, 19, we were in the provincial final, all three, and we won in 19. And I kind of kept the same offense. I wanted to make some changes, but I'd had those kids since they were in spring and as grade 8s, and I took them all the way up and thought, okay, I'm not going to upset the apple cart. We're just going to go with what we have. But now that we've been off a year, I'm going to make some changes that are going to be good for the personnel that we have, but I think also are going to make us more efficient on offense anyhow. A big thing for me is you have to know how to lose, which is kind of tough because losing, I hate to lose. I absolutely hate it. But if I lose, I'm losing with my team. So if I'm losing with my team, then I need to act accordingly. And so when I say you have to know how to lose, how do you respond? You have to show your kids that you're a gracious loser. And I don't mean, I don't mean that, well, you have to be happy you lost. No, that's not it. But you have to show class. You have to show class when you lose. And I think that's really important. When we won in 2013, and I have there, everyone is your friend when you win. When we won in 2013, everybody's your friend. Oh, you're great, blah, 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 all this. In 2015, we had a horrible year and we lost. Well, then I had coaches kind of vacating. They're not coming to practice. And they're all of a sudden I see there's a truck leaving with a coach in it. And I'm like, what the hell is going on here? And we kind of lost our philosophy. Kids started skipping practices. We were losing on the field. It was kind of a toxic environment off the field. And so, you kind of have to decide then, who do you want working with you? So I had new coaches brought in. So our current staff, there was no one on our current staff who was on that 15 staff. You know, we lost the final in 17. We lost the final in 18, and you know, we were gracious after both. I think I was out coached in 18, and I shouldered that, but there was no finger pointing on our staff. There was no finger pointing amongst kids. There was none of that. So how do we respond? Well, let's get better. We had to get better. That's, you know, we weren't good enough, so let's get better. So, you know, that ended up being a 2019 season where we were perfect, and you know, we were provincial champions. And our kids saw how we responded, and the kids responded accordingly, and they were driven. And you know, it only takes one bad thing to topple all the good things that you're doing. So you have to make sure that you have the right people around you. So, you know, I'm very, very fortunate to have the staff that I have. And there's a couple other pictures up there. One's from Senior Bowl and one's from Saskota Bowl. Just, you know, there is a wealth of knowledge out there, and the coaching staffs that I've been on have definitely made me a better coach. So, you know, having to know how to lose is tough sometimes, but you have to also turn things around. Be introspective, look at yourself. What do I need to do differently? And you know, I'm in 18, I'm still pissed at myself because it was my fault. And you know, if I could reverse that, I would. But again, okay, that's under the water. I learned, move on. And I think that's really important. So our program off the field, just to kind of change gears here quickly, there's 3 things up there that you see. One is a sign when you come on to our field. Our field is named after a coach who coached here for 30 years, Doug McCall. We also have that's our tower and our clock. And so our Bronx Parents Association, when I started our program, I said, I can't do the fundraising. Like it's too much. I had, you know, I had a family. I have, you know, I had a family. I'm coaching. I was the vice principal. I couldn't do that. So we started a parents association, and that's kind of carried on. And the head of our parents association is a lady here in town, a business person in town. She's phenomenal. Like, I mean, she's outstanding. So, you know, she's a doer, and that's what you need. So our fundraising is for capital projects. In PVSD, we don't have to fundraise for equipment. We have a central equipment fund that our division provides because they don't want us doing that. They want to be able to provide that, which is really nice. So our capital project or our money goes to capital projects. Other schools, you know, this will be applicable to you if you're trying to raise money for anything or other programs. And so, you know, talking with Virginia, that's the head of our parents association, very smart woman. And you know, she says, maximize the return on your investment. So go big first, like ask the corporations, ask local corporations. We have a couple here in town that have given us a ton. Including like that sign that you see, Vail Industries made that. And then we have 2 signs that are underneath it now with the provincial championship things. But, you know, go big first and fill in with smaller businesses and individuals. And I think, you know, when you start to fill in after, people want to help. Businesses want to help, and businesses want to help us because we're a positive program. If we weren't that positive program, I don't think we'd have that same support. And I think it's important that you measure your time versus return in fundraising efforts. An example is, you know, I ran a golf about 7 years ago. I ran a golf tournament. It was hours of work, hours put into collecting fees and all of this other stuff. Like it was just a lot of work. And we, you know, the return was okay, but it wasn't outstanding. A couple of years ago, we ran a steak night at the local bar here. Hardly any work. You know, we gave the kids tickets to sell. We got some auction items, and it was 2 hours. We were there for 2 hours, and our return was actually more than we made in the golf. So, you have to kind of look at that. Your time's important. If I'm talking about life balance, your time's going to be important. So try and look for those things that are easy. Work with local businesses that are going to be a little bit easier. And Virginia stated, work in kind is often better value for companies. So if they're doing a project for you or something like that, doing the work in kind is a better value. For us, it may be $10,000 worth of work that they're doing, but it's only costing them $3,500 in manpower and materials or whatever it might be. So it's a better value for the company, even though we are getting a massive value here at the football side of it. And then don't overlook sources of free money. We do 50-50s. We do admission. We have sponsors, game day sponsors. And you see that next with the liaison with local businesses. When we create a turnover, that's an Indian Head Bakery turnover is announced, the TNT Auto Body touchdown at Delage Farms Field Goal Fund. Every time we kick a convert, unfortunately, we suck at that, so that doesn't happen a lot. But we do a really great job of working with local partnerships and local businesses. And they, like I said, they want to be part of this, and I'll talk about why in a moment. So there's community grants out there, so you can apply for community grants. We access the Rider Legacy Fund for our clock. I just want to say something about our clock. Our clock was $42,000 to put up. We decided in March of 2016 that we wanted to, okay, it's time, we're going to fundraise for the clock now. And that clock was up by August 2016. So that's how much support we got from the community and how much we kind of knocked on doors and got it done. So, it can be done. People want to do that. What I find with our Bronx Parents Association is I have them deal with a lot of the game day responsibilities. So we have O Canada, the gate, the announcers, the clock, the scorekeepers, making sure there's an ambulance available, making sure there's canteen. We farm our canteen out to our canoe club and they do it. But, in some situations, we don't, if we're doing a jamboree or something, we do our own canteen. So making sure there's workers and all of that type of thing. We also do a kick to win lottery, which if you have a question about that, I will explain it in a little bit more detail. But we have lottery licenses for that and the 50-50 sales. And the kick to win lottery is basically free money because one of our businesses donates the money. And then it's like if your name is selected, someone has to kick a 20-yard field goal and you can pick anyone. You kick a 20-yard field goal, you get 3 shots at it. And if they make it, you get half the pot, or basically you get all the pot, whatever our pot is. It's 50% of our proceeds. And if they don't make it, you still get a quarter of the pot. So people still win something. Another thing is field maintenance. And I know a lot of programs, the coaches are coaching, they're doing this, they're lining the field on game day, they're cutting the field, they're watering the field in the off season, making sure, I do some of that, and I like to sit on the track, on the lawnmower and during the summer and put music on and kind of go and escape for a couple hours. But, you're going to burn yourself out. And I think that's one thing that, I've seen in other coaches that they're burning themselves out. So, we have watering, cutting, fixing, seeding, painting. All of that needs to be done. So we have, our Bronx Parents Association finds people who are going to do that for us. And finally, at the end of every year, we have a awards banquet. I put fundraiser there. I know, like, for example, I think Fort Capel does it as a fundraiser. We don't do it as a fundraiser. We just do it. We hope to break even on it. But I know a lot of people will do that and get an actual guest speaker out and things like that. We haven't gone that route yet. So that's off the field. One other thing that I think is really, really important is selling your brand. And, if your brand is out there, people are more, will tend to buy into it. So having a positive social media. I do Facebook posts all the time after every game, during the week. Hey, this is what's going on, those types of things. So I think it's really important to sell your brand. And like you see on the bottom of that graphic, it says the Bronc is everywhere, and I think that's really important. The Bronc is everywhere in town, and it didn't used to be that way, but it certainly is now. Game day programs, again, Bill Ritz in Fort Capel, or pardon me, in Foam Lake, he's done this where you've taken pictures of the kids and you've made a big program, kind of a glossy program that grandma and everyone want to buy, sell it for $10, and then they've got a commemorative program that they can keep. That's an excellent fundraiser, because if I do the work and I make it and I just send it, I've already talked to our printer here in town. If I send it to them, they'll do it at a very cheap price, and it's a good fundraiser for us. Figure if you sell, if you sell 100 of them, I think we'd sell more than that. But if you sell 100 of them, that's $1,000 minus whatever your cost is. So not really that tough. And then if you've got the template on, you can just change it every year with your new people that you have on. A catchy hashtag is always excellent. We started the hashtag Bronx Pride, and I put it after every post when we're on there, and it's just something that we live now. And I think it's when I do that, I even will send, like, for all school teams, like if we have our basketball team going to a tournament or something, I'll say good luck to the senior girls today, blah blah blah, hashtag Bronx Pride. So it's we're buying in as a school, everyone's buying in. And the hashtag family, that came out of our 2019 season, and actually the kids started that one. So and a lot of the talks before games, after I'm done my talk, the grade 12s were talking, hey, we're a family, let's go. And when you've achieved that, you have the kids doing that, you've done quite well. And then we protect the team always. So some of the things we do, we get a lot of money from our communities. So I think it's important, and we always say Bronx give back. And I put that on social media. So we've set up at the church, PBSD has a flag football jamboree. Every year we do all the coaching and rafting at that. Town hall at Christmas, they light the lights and then they serve hot dogs, free hot dogs to the kids. We go and we serve that. Our kids do that. Parade day, we always put a float in. We help with the bouncy castles and stuff like that. And then of course, community football. Our players have been really good at helping with our young kids and going that way. Team clothing, I think, is something that is, it's a source of pride. We get a new hoodie every year. You look good coming off the bus. I know some people want to go shirt and tie when you go to games, which is fine. But we have to travel sometimes. Like we travel to Maple Creek. That's a 4.5-hour trip. I'm not going to ask the kids, and coming back too, I'm not going to ask them to sit in a shirt and tie the whole time. But having team clothing, it's pride. We have football jackets. We all got football jackets last year. We had an anonymous donor who bought football jackets for the entire provincial championship team in 19. So that was amazing. We do a season video production with the highlights, and then we've sold that in the past, but we don't sell it now. The parent who did it, she just kind of gives it away. And then, we allow our parents really want to have clothing as well. So they do a Bronx football clothing sale all the time. That allows families and support members our community members to show support. And like I said, the Bronx is everywhere. It's absolutely everywhere, which is awesome. And when I came to the school, it was nowhere. You never saw it. Now you see it everywhere. So that's really important to me. So on the field, I'm not going to purport to go here and say that, just the way that, there's a lot of other sessions that talk about different aspects of on the field. So I'm not going to really go into that. But what I really find is that starting them young is really important for us and has been great for us. In fact, the the grade 12 kids who just graduated, they were part of our first spring season as grade 7/8 kids. So, we have flag football here at school, grades 6 to 8. We run spring community football, grades 4 to 11. We expanded it. That'll be on the next slide. I'll talk about that. We run junior jamborees. So I know Dave up in Melfort runs a jamboree. Lumsden runs a jamboree. Johnny Svensson in Melville has run jamborees, and we run a jamboree. So you get 2 or 3 teams together. It's your grade 9, 10 kids who maybe don't see the field that much. And it's really informal, but it's fantastic. And it's good football. Coaches are on the field. It's a lot of fun. We used to run a 5th quarter. So you travel somewhere and your young guys play, 10 plays on offense, 10 plays on defense. But we found that, if we're traveling to Maple Creek and we're done at 7, we've got to get to Swift for supper and then get home, and we're arriving at 1 a.m. already. So 5th quarter doesn't really make a lot of sense for us, and we want to get home after a game. But the more reps equals more success, and that's in anything, right? Running special events are really important. We run a Friday night lights game, and our first one, I think, had about 800 people at it, which is phenomenal. We played against Fort Capel, so a lot of their fans came up too. We played Lumsden the last couple of years, but we're still 400 or 500 people at those games. Fort Capel, I know, runs an early dismissal game at 2 p.m. So they tell their kids you can either go to the game or you can stay in class. So that's kind of something to get everyone excited and at a football game and get a good atmosphere too. Telling your kids about camps, there's a ton of camps out there. A lot of our kids have played RMF, gone into Regina and played spring RMF. SAS Selects, we've had a couple kids play SAS Selects. Going to the Senior Bowl, even if they're in grade 12, going to Senior Bowl, Can-Am Bowl, Challenge Cup, whatever it may be. Challenge Cup used to be Saskota Bowl. But those are football experiences. And, we've had, like Scotty has always come, after Saskota practice, hey, anyone we need to look at. And I know there are a couple kids who maybe weren't going to play post-secondary or weren't looked at, but have done a great job at that, who have gone on to try out for the Thunder. Scour for every opportunity available to your kids. And, one thing I need to get better at is, it's an area impacted by COVID, but getting them in the weight room is really important. Unfortunately, at our school, we're not allowing kids into the weight room, which sucks. But I know this is something I need to improve on. It's an area of my coaching that in the off season that I need to get better at, but they need to be in the weight room. You want them to be bigger, faster, stronger. So just quickly, Indian Head community football, and I give a lot of credit to John Svensson, who basically has organized our community league. Also give a lot of credit to Dave Rogers, because Dave up in Melfort, because I've picked his brain. They run a community within their community, but just some of the things that he does in there, which have been fantastic. So we play Melville, Fort, Yorkton, Esterhazy, Moosomin. So if I get to live the Jason Boyda experience sometimes when we coach against each other. We've got a pretty good rivalry going there, but it's all good, and the kids get to see some higher level football against all these teams. So we've expanded to grades 4 to 11. I have my players as kind of an expectation to help coach and ref, and they do so. And the focus is on skill development. And like I said, the 7-8 team from 2016 with the grade 12s on that provincial championship team. So it has been great for us, because when we get kids as grade 9s, they've seen the field. And sometimes they've seen the field for 3 or 4 years. So we had a couple grade 9 starters for us this past season. One of our defensive ends was a starter, or in 2019, pardon me, he was a grade 9 starter, and he was phenomenal, right? And would he have been that phenomenal had he not gone through spring for a couple of years? I'm not sure. He's a good athlete, but certainly having that knowledge and being in that system, because we have the same coaches, we run the same system. and has been, was beneficial to him. On the field, I mean, you have to look at your personnel, and sometimes we get stuck in, I'm going to run this offense. And, if you're slow and plodding and you're trying to run wide, your offense goes, I like to run wide. And I like to throw the ball. So that's no mystery to anyone who's played against me. But if if I were able to have an offensive line, a deadly offensive line that was 250 across the board and two big power backs, I wouldn't be running wide. I'd be pounding the ball. So, adjust your scheme to fit your strengths. And I think sometimes we get so locked into what we're doing rather than wanting to change it because we're comfortable. Again, expand your comfort box. So are you fast? Are you big? Are you football smart? Does your quarterback run or throw? I mean, you're going to design your offense to those strengths. Sometimes you're going to coach your kids up to what you're doing. But if you don't have the kids to do what you're trying to attempt to do, if their skill set isn't that, find something else. Scout yourself. Study film, study it again. And I mean, I cannot say the stress of that. Scout yourself and understand what you see, because what you see is what your opponent is seeing. Just a quick story on that. In 2001, because I know I'm getting up against the clock here. In 2001, we lost to Lumsden. We had beaten them 58-8 earlier in the season, and we lost them in the playoffs. And basically, we were a go big or go home type of team that year. We loved to throw deep. They took it away. I didn't adjust to it. And I didn't, I just thought, well, we can be, again, I was cocky. We didn't prepare for, if they take this away, we're going to do this. And for me, I've gotten a lot better at that, because with our current team, my quarterback, Reese, he can throw 60 yards. And that's not an exaggeration. Like he has a gun for an arm, and he loves to use it. And we had to tell him, when we're running a concept where, a snag concept or whatever it may be, I call it a slot Julia. We're running that. You gotta look at the two short guys. I don't care about the guy who's going deep. We don't care about that. We want to get the ball. We want to read the linebacker. And we want to get the ball out quickly. So, adjusting to that, because I know every team was taking away that deep ball. It'll work the first time, but coaches are smart. They're not going to let it. And if you play the same teams over and over, they're going to be smart about that. Analytics, I haven't done a lot in terms of analytics, but, knowing what your tendencies are, knowing what your opponent's tendencies are, and gaining every competitive advantage you can. And, I was talking to Boyd the other night, and we're talking about the no huddle, right? How many more plays can you get in terms than an opponent? If you're running 15 more plays than an opponent, and you see that in your analytics in how many plays you've run, that's advantage you. How many more reps are you getting in practice? Jason says he probably estimates he gets 80 more reps in practice a week because they run the no huddle. So that's invaluable. The more reps, the better you're going to be. Being efficient in running your practices, being efficient, scripted, be game relevant. I think, when I started the program, one of our coaches wanted our kids to push a half ton so he could take a picture and put it on. Well, there's nothing in pushing a half ton that was relevant to what we do. So keep it relevant. Running one-on-ones, and your quarterback takes 5 seconds to throw the ball. That's not helping anyone, because that's not going to happen in a game situation. So make sure you're doing that, and make sure that you're doing the proper release and coaching it up, even if you're warming up. Game prep is, for me, this is big for coaches. So what we're doing on practice field is important for coaches. So I have my call sheet ready on the Monday, so I can use it during the week and we can get plays in. I want my kids to be organized. I want them to be confident in what we're running. And I want to be organized. I want to be confident in what I'm calling. So that's really important is, you know, clock management. I mean, how many times do we see in the NFL where head coaches like at that level suck at clock management? And I think clock management is really, really important. So when I go clock management, you know, little things, I always want to keep my timeout. So that means, you know, having all our personnel groupings, we know like at special teams, what, you know, this is the grouping, this is the grouping. So I don't, you know, we're not short a player and we're calling a timeout, 2 timeouts before we get to the fourth quarter. We don't want that to ever happen, you know, and you have 20 seconds. Like if you're winding down the clock, you have 20 seconds and you have a timeout available. In both our provincial finals, the last minute I had timeouts available. Let the clock wind for 19 seconds, called timeout. Now, okay, even if we and we were going for a third down play, even if we don't get first down, now we're good. Okay. They don't have enough time. And also just, you know, little things like getting to the line quickly. So if we have 3rd and 2, I would yell at the line and I'd yell Jimmy Ricky, and we know we're running a jet right. And it's just boom, we get up, first down, go. And you're doing that before the team adjusts. Special teams matter. I'm not going to go really deep into that. I'll spend as much time on it as I probably do in practice, which isn't enough. But, you know, I've lost games before because of special teams. And I think one thing, especially in high school football, make sure the kids in special teams understand the rules. We lost in 2014. We were probably going to lose to Clavette anyhow, but we could have made it a game had one of our guys realize a kickoff is live, and that I blame myself as coaching. And I told him, and he just looked at it and they come and bat it out. Well, now they got first down, they're potent, they get the first down on the 25, and we're in trouble, right? So make sure your kids know that. And the last thing I'll say is the KISS principle. And I need to learn more from this. Don't bog your kids down with 100 plays or 15 blitz combinations or coverages or whatever it may be, a ton of formations and movement and all of that. You can run that, but be innovative and execute and find those 4 plays that you can run multiple sets off of or multiple plays off of. And, you know, or find out plays that you can run, but just out of different formations. Then it looks different to the defense, but you are, at the same time, you are ensuring that you are not, you know, it's easy for your kids because again, if the kids are thinking, they're not moving. And it doesn't matter what level of football that is. If they're thinking, they're not moving. So we want to teach our kids and have them and rep it enough and have them confident enough that it becomes second nature. That they're moving, and if this happens, whatever. They're making those split-second decisions, but they're being athletic. They're not being, they're not just sitting back. So that's pretty much it for me. There's my contact info, and again, if anyone's wondering how about any of this, I am more than willing to talk. Like I said, I have bent the ear of a lot of coaches. And, you know, I remember when Boyda presented and he said, you know, he wants to give back. And, you know, I'm really thankful that Coach Jackson reached out to me and was able to give me this opportunity tonight. I think, you know, having opportunities like this to talk and to, at the end of the day, you know, some of my best friends have come from our coaches that I coach with at Saskatoon Bowl. And, you know, even this past summer, we got together, even though we couldn't coach together, we were able to get together for a few days and do some fishing and exchanged a few pleasantries. It was great. And, you know, I got those friends, those best friends from coaching, and my best friends here in town are my coaches here in town. They're, you know, so this football has been excellent to me, and it's been awesome for me. And I just really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today. Thank you.